Alright, this is video post number 2 about my experience with fighting with the dagger here quarterstaff. The dagger here quarterstaff is a very uncommon weapon. It just, I don't know, it just isn't seen, so I haven't had very many people to ask, hey, how do you use a quarterstaff? Or, how do you get around this, how do you get around that? Everything has been like a trial and error experience for me. So, this is my post for, anybody who is interested in this kind of stuff. My quarterstaff pretty much looks like a dagger here version of Darth Maul's lightsaber. Like, it might as well just be that. So it's not like there's no incidental padding in the middle or anything like that. It's just, a band shot pole, 2 ends, stab tips, all that good stuff. Speaking on off subject on stab tips, every weapon you make should have a stab tip, all of them, because it's just nice to have it. But anyways, quarterstaff fighting. Quarterstaff fighting is very weird. Like, the thing you can't rely on like you would with a normal quarterstaff or bowstaff in regular martial arts is the fact that I can't grab one end of the weapon, like on on the extremely north side or the extremely south side of the weapon, and swing the pole. I can't change that axis. So I'm stuck swinging the weapon from the middle of the weapon. Just like Darth Maul's lightsaber. You pretty much have to use it like that. Touching one side or trying to wield it from one of the striking surfaces is very, very difficult and unwieldy. And I tried it one time just to joke around, and it wasn't even halfway decent. So you're stuck using it as if touching one striking surface is going to cut your hand off. So the thing I get that Darth Maul didn't get is the fact that weapons can't be broken. So I can use the middle of the staff to, like block and deflect things, stuff like that. And in my experience, it's not the easiest weapon to learn. Sometimes, like, you get slightly discouraged because a guy runs in with a flail and a tower shield, and you're just like, oh, what do you do against this? You have to circle that person. You have to be more maneuverable. You have to do a lot more work than even with like Florentine and stuff like that, because your strikes can only come from so many angles. The biggest advantages you get with the quarterstaff is A, you normally have range over most weapons. 2, most people aren't used to fighting against quarterstaffs, so while you may swing with one end of the weapon, they may forget that you have a double-ended weapon, and you can just swing under their guard or over their guard and stuff like that if they aren't careful. Disadvantages to using a quarterstaff. Depending on how your quarterstaff is made, if it's made anything like mine, my quarterstaff is taller than me. I'm about 5'7", 5'8". If you don't have the strength to wield the weapon properly, you won't be able to move it as fast as you want. 2, I've had several people tell me that I don't hit hard enough with the weapon quite yet. Mainly because if someone happens to disrupt, like grab your weapon in the middle or something like that, they'll greatly, decrease the power you swing with it, which may change your completely legal shot into a light shot, and they can get you messed up. And 3, until I'm used the weapon more, I have 0 people to say, yo, try it like this, because I've heard of maybe 3 people using the quarterstaff. So you don't get very much help there. You just get to use it and try it out and see how you like it. When I first got the weapon, about 6 or 7 people told me, hey, this is the best way to use it, even though they didn't have very much quarterstaff experience. So I took some of their tips. I'm starting from scratch, why not? And like 75% of those things were useless. Completely useless. A lot of people say, if you've ever been kayaking before, use that motion. And I'm like, that motion works to a certain degree, but the biggest thing no one takes into account is that most of the people in Dagger here use shields. And the kayaking motion, the one strike after another, doesn't work the way most people think it would. If you try to do it exactly like kayaking, you'll get your shots blocked, because they're all going to be high, shoulder to body shots, and people, especially people with large punch shields, just probably won't even move their shield. They're just going to be like, your strikes don't mean anything. What that strike should be more like is you have to you have to change your angle of your shot. Every time you throw a shot, it can't be on the same plane, it can't be on the same angle. Otherwise, people with shields will not be worried about your strikes. So, and I've been trying to, I know a lot of people that do spear, seeing as it's another polearm. They use spear and they use a secondary. I've been trying not to use a secondary, just to get the more experience and more, alright, how do I handle situations when people are closer to me? How do I handle situations when people are further away? How do I handle line fighting with the quarterstaff? And as far as line fighting is concerned, you don't. If you're going to line fight, you don't bring your quarterstaff, because you're a glorified spear, and you're a spear with shorter range. So if you really want to use a polearm to line fight, use a glaive, use a spear. Don't use a quarterstaff. You'll be practically useless. Another tip for using a quarterstaff: get your defense up, get your blocks up. Chances are you won't have a shield, and if your quarterstaff is anything like mine, it's not a one-handed weapon. You need two. So get your defense game up, because if you can't block a flail, and if it just wraps you every time you try to do anything, or if people just go by and you just can't defend yourself, defense is a very, very key point of using the quarterstaff. It's, in my opinion, the quarterstaff gives you better defense than most weapons will, but your defense has to be on point. You have to be key with it, otherwise you're just gonna get lit up. What are some other things that I learned? It's not an easy weapon by any means. It's because people are so, I don't know, it's just so unfamiliar to people. People see it as more like a novelty weapon. No one really takes it seriously, in my opinion. And, people who've been doing what they, sword and board for years, you're going to have to get over. You're pretty much brand new. Even if you've been using a martial arts quarterstaff in whatever school you might go to, or you've been fighting dagger here, who knows how long, the quarterstaff is not a weapon you just pick up and say, oh, it's like using this. Personally, I started off with like Florentine, because I hate shields. Shields are the devil. I started off with Florentine and stuff like that. And I feel like if I absolutely had to, I could pick up a flail, and it wouldn't be too much different than using a sword. I could, after fighting with the quarterstaff a little bit, I understand how to better work a spear and stuff like that. But going from any weapon to a quarterstaff changes the game up entirely. So it's not something easily coming into. So those are my tips on that's my experience with the quarterstaff. I can go through some tips and stuff later for anyone else trying to learn to use a quarterstaff. It's just in my experience. I've only been doing it for like a month or so, and it's like my new favorite weapon, so I'm gonna make it my primary. So alright guys, I'm out. Have fun with this.